Hello everyone and welcome to Young with Rum. You know, the series where I answer the questions you make in the comment section of the previous Young with Rum. This week, before the questions, I'm going to comment on a couple of things. First of all, yes, I know 1.37 is coming. Yes, I know the dev server has been open. No, I haven't been in yet. My timetable has not allowed me to do so, but as soon as I can, I will log into the dev server. I will do some recording, and I will, give you my thoughts on the new stuff which is incoming in the new patch. But in particular, I want to speak about the Q&A. You know, the podcast Bismarck and I do. Um, you might be wondering why during the last 2 weeks there has been no Q&A. 2 weeks ago, actually, it was my problem. I had some serious problems with my ISP, which kept me offline. At the times, we could actually do the podcast because Bismarck and I are in very different time zones. He's 8 hours ahead of me, so we can only do the podcast at some given hours, and at those hours, I simply had no connection. But last week, we actually recorded a podcast and with an interview. Um, and the problem is that the interviewed, which was is an amazing guy, is someone who really deserves a lot of recognition for what he does, is also um, compromised, let's say this way, by an NDA with Gaijin. I'm not going to say exactly which spot he takes and covers. I'm not going to give him his name. The thing is, we interviewed him for what he does for the community, which is, of course, not covered by any NDA. And we asked him about a lot of stuff which has absolutely nothing to do with what he does for Gaijin, and of course, has nothing to do with his NDA. We were really careful, absolutely to the maximum point, just to make sure he didn't breach his NDA. It went great. I mean, it was a great interview indeed. But suddenly he came back to us telling us that we couldn't publish his interview because Gaijin had forbidden him to do so. Even while what he said has nothing to do with the NDA, he's forbidden to speak in an interview. And he's forbidden to take recognition for what he does for the community as a result. Because this guy does an amazing job for every one of us. At least those who read the forums, at least. He's not a Gaijin employee either. He's just someone who cooperates with them, but he's been forbidden to speak about War Thunder at all in an interview. I actually tried to contact some people in Gaijin to ask what the freak was wrong with that. Um, the answer has come through, well, basically, we can do nothing. We can't publish that interview. Well, actually, we could, but we would get that guy into a sea of shit that he doesn't deserve. So the whole podcast had to be ditched. We couldn't publish it. Um, I don't know why Gaijin does this. I mean, I know they are careful about people not spreading anything confidential covered by NDA, but that's why you sign an NDA. If you breach it, you are liable to serious consequences. You don't enforce it by preventing people to speak in public. All I can say is that huge, huge, huge thumbs down to Gaijin. Huge, huge, huge thumbs down to their attitude. And I'm really sorry, guys, because this last week podcast is going to remain unpublished. If it didn't involve a third person, I would publish it anyway and fuck in. I mean, those guys really should recheck what they are doing. But really involves a third person. The guy is really nice and he doesn't deserve anything bad coming because he was nice enough to give us an interview. So that's why there was no Q&A last Friday. This Friday there will be. Hopefully. Well, we will try to get someone who's not tied, because he's been tied by an NDA, who makes him a slave, silent slave, who can't open his mouth in public, otherwise Gaijin will get mad at them. Really shameful, but whatever. I'm not even going to make any more but evaluation about this at all. But that's why there was no Q&A. Well, say that, I think it's time for the questions. So let's get started. Let's go for the questions and let's begin. First question is, did you ever try the 3D Age of Empires? It's got very easy micro on it. No, actually, real-time strategy games I didn't try a lot of them since then. I played Age of Empires. I actually later realized that I also played Theater of Operations or something like that. I don't know. Which was kind of a real-time strategy version of, well, is the way I see it. I mean, it was a real-time strategy World War II game, but again, too much micro, too little tactics in comparison to the micro. So, no, I haven't tried that, and I'm not going to. I mean, the problem with the real-time strategy games and me is really deep, and even if it's got easy micro, I struggle at times with even WarGame Airline Battle because my micro is simply not up to the task. But at least in Wargame, I enjoy the fact that tactics matter more. If you do just a basic level of micro, tactics is what wins you battle. So, no, I haven't tried it. So, yeah. Next question. Ram, why not so much love for Spitfire performance-wise? I don't know. From me, you're going to see in this video, in this clip, you're going to see a video of me absolutely destroying enemies with the Spitfire Mark II. Um, the fact is, it's not a boom and summer, and I don't like not boom and summers. At least I enjoy enemy boom and thumb planes. I enjoy enemy fighters somewhat less. But planes that are more reliant on turning than in energy tactics, I don't like a lot. The Spitfire, I do very well with it, but I don't like it. It's the way it is. But of course, it's a great plane. It's a great plane. You can do really well in it. But yeah, I don't know. Why not so much love? Because I don't like the plane? Well, it's not that I don't like, it's that I like other planes a lot more. So yeah, there it goes. Next question. Um, I just got into a game of Berlin with a full team of F9M Panthers in my Meteor F4 against a full team of ME163s with a couple ME262s and Henkel 162s. What do you think about this? That is stupid. I mean, matchmaking is broken at higher levels and Germans simply get shafted by it. It's a sorry state of affairs and it's not going to get any better with the new version. So it's what it is. I mean, if you want to play jets, um, don't try a German jet or a Japanese because well, they don't have jets. They have a rocket plane, but don't fly German. That's all. What do I think? That shouldn't be allowed, but happens all the time. Like a lot of things that happen with War Thunder. Lots of things that shouldn't happen all the time. It's the way it goes. Either you accept it or not. What I'm going to say. Next question. Ram, how much is the TA152 underperforming, or is its high altitude in general broken? Um, well, he goes on to say that the 198.5 U2 is better than the TA152 at 7,000 meters. I disagree, well, by a wild mile. The TA152 doesn't meet the performance standards it had at high altitudes, but so don't a lot of planes in the game, because high altitude physics are not yet properly implemented. And that's not a problem only in the TA152, it's a problem with the P51, it's a problem with the P47, in planes that should have great high altitude performance, and they have somewhat lower than what they should. And it's a problem with planes like a Zero or N1K or Spitfire as planes that have too good of a high altitude performance they shouldn't have. Um, is the way it is. Again, this is a game that's not complete, and you're looking at incomplete flight models. As for the rest, I think the TA-152 is the best Boom piston engine Boom in the game. So I don't think it's underperforming by a lot, exactly. I think it's an excellent plane. Might be underperforming at high altitude, maybe, but still the plane is fantastic. So no big room to complain. The only complaint in the TA-152 is that you go against jets all the time. That's a big problem. But as of the plane on itself, actually, I think it's really good. Next question. Next question is not a question, it's a comment. It's about Eric Brown and his flight in the Messerschmitt 163 Comet. For those of you who don't know him, Eric Brown was, is the Guinness record holder of the man who has flown more planes. He was a test pilot of the Royal Navy Air Force, Royal Navy Air Service, sorry. And he was one of the chiefs of the Farnborough Research Establishment during the later years of the war and the immediate post-war. So he got to fly and try a lot of planes, amongst them some of the more rare planes of World War II. The Dornier 335, the Arado 234, the ME 262, the Henkel 162, and also the Comet. And if you read the book Wings of the Luftwaffe, which is kind of mixed memories and technical descriptions of the planes of the Luftwaffe he flew, well, the most prominent ones, you will see that he was really looking forward flying the Comet. Really looking forward. I mean, he was excited to fly it to the point that he rushed his test flight on the powered Comet because there had been some accidents already with the plane, and he knew the Allied authorities were going to ban the flight of the Comet with fuel. So he knew it was a thing of now or never, and he wanted to fly the Comet. Of course, for the common mortal, getting himself into a brick of explosive materials tightly packed together with the idea of using them to mix them into a rocket and go zooming back up into the sky up to maybe 10 kilometers of altitude in 3 minutes, and then come back gliding without any fuel and touch down with a skid on a plane that if it has a drop of fuel left within it is going to explode. Well, those things will sound like mad, like crazy, like the last thing I'm going to ever do is to get into that cockpit and fly that death trap. But Eric Brown was a pilot, and by that I mean a true pilot, a career pilot. There are a lot of people like him who have a real passion about flying, and they can't stand the idea of not trying a plane that is so exciting as the Comet was in 1945. And he really wanted, he really desired to do that, knowing he was at danger. But as he said in a lot of his interviews, the danger was always there. You had to live with it and forget about it. You had to fly your stuff. And he never turned down flying any plane, even planes that were really dangerous to fly. Um, so I can understand him because I have a passion for flying. I can't be a pilot, a professional one at least, but I would probably be like him. Someone who really has a passion about flying and wants to take it to a extreme and try the most exciting things technology has to offer. Just look at other instance, Chuck Yeager. Chuck Yeager, not only he was the first man to break the sound barrier, he did it for free, basically. He didn't ask for any money, while civil pilots were asking for a lot of money. And the sound barrier breaking happened in a day where Chuck Yeager barely could move his left hand because he had fallen off his horse the day before and he had broken a couple of ribs. And he flew with that. And he flew a plane that was to cross the Mach 1 line for the first time ever. In a test of doing a thing that have killed a lot of pilots before him. And he did so with broken ribs. And he told no one, exception made for his flight mechanic, because he needed a special lever to close the cockpit once he moved into it in the B-29. To close the door, he had to reach to it with his left hand and close it with a lever. And he couldn't because he had his ribs broken. So he asked for his flight mechanic to give him chopped broom to introduce in the cockpit and use it to close the door with the right hand instead of using the left hand. The normal mortal doesn't do that. The normal mortal falls off the horse, breaks his ribs, and says, "I can't fly. Someone else has to do it." Well, he did that, and he did a lot more crazy stuff that in some points almost costed him his life. People like that fly out of a passion. And I don't think he's nuts. I think that means that those people were born to fly, and they were born to be test pilots, and probably astronauts. But well, Eric Brown was British, so no luck in that, and Chuck Yeager didn't go to the university, so that's why he never was an astronaut. The NASA requirements asked for someone with a college graduate. So yeah, but well, anyway, next question. Next question is well, more a suggestion than a question. It's from someone who says that he finds himself trying to handle his plane with his cockpit and looking at the indicators in the cockpit to try and get the information he needs to fly. So basically, he likes flying in cockpit view. But the problem is that he can't read what it says on the instruments for some nations, and he asks whether I can do a guide with cockpits and cockpit layouts. It's actually an interesting idea, but it's also a highly time-consuming one. Um, my answer would be that I would love to, but the problem with this is that how many people are going to benefit from that? Not a lot. Still, it's an interesting proposition, and probably I will think about it. Yeah, I didn't think about something like this, but actually might be a cool thing to do. Maybe not for all the planes, but at least for some of each nation, the most representative ones. Because usually for the same nations, the cockpit layouts, not they are similar, but the gauges themselves, the clocks, are very similar to each other. So once you recognize it in one model, maybe you will find it easier to find it in another different model. Maybe I will do something like that. Maybe not promising anything, but yeah, it's an interesting idea. Next question. Random question of the week. N1K versus Foo Fighter. Who would you root for, and who would you think would actually win? Between those, the N1K, because I mean turns better and climbs better. Basically because of those two. Who would I root for? The AI. Yeah, probably. If Shinja or Ten of one of those, Rio or some of them comes behind them and kills them, I'm going to root for them. I wouldn't root for none of those, and I haven't. I mean, you see that. I mean, this matchup you can have in War Thunder in British versus Japanese map. You can have broken fighters fighting N1Ks, and honestly, I don't care who wins or who loses, as long I mean, for me, both are losers. But whatever. Next question. Ram, what do you think of the latest in computer technology, in particular autonomous weapons? I don't know. Really, I don't have an opinion first and foremost on that. I think it's cool to have autonomous weapons and robots on land or shooting at each other instead of putting some poor bastard on the line of fire. As long as it's to save lives, I'm cool with it. In what regards to air combat, I'm a little bit taken aback because I think that the whole thing about flying is getting lost. I'm not a pilot, a real pilot, but I would love to because I have flown in real life several times and I know what a joy it is. But the new combat generations of planes are non-manned planes, UAVs, which are remotely flown by someone sitting maybe 6,000 kilometers away on a computer. It's very similar to a flight simulator. And really, it's a little bit sad to see flying reduced to that. Part of the beauty of flying is flying for real. And one of my greatest annoyances in life, one of my biggest deceptions in life, is the fact that I can't earn a living out of flying. So flying for real. So why would someone would want to earn his living by not flying a UAV, for instance? I don't know. But I think it's a little bit sad from the point of view of the flying. But on the ground and well, actually on the ground, everything. I mean, anything that really saves lives is okay with me. But also, I think that there might be a little bit the dehumanization of war if there's such a probable thing. Let me try to explain. People are scared of wars for the most part. People really don't like wars because wars cost lives. If you take human life out of the equation, what's at stake in a war? Other than money, of course, because those things are going to be expensive. So, autonomous system as something to complement humans is okay, but the day we field is of course very far in the future if it ever happens. But the day we field a totally autonomous army of androids or robots or whatever you want to call them, or remotely directed or remotely controlled vehicles and soldiers, etc., is the day we might lose the fear for war, and that's a terrible thing. I don't know. It's a little bit complicated. But yeah, more or less, and overall, and not entering into specifics. That's my opinion. Next question. Ram. The challenges are not being taken seriously anymore, especially since there was one involving heavy bombers, which most players don't have. Believe me, the challenges are being taken seriously as much as the day one. And they are massacring historical battles as much as they are massacring as they were day one. As you can see in the videos, I have flown War Thunder during the last week, and seriously, the level of retardedness in order to achieve an achievement between people is insane. So yeah, well, the best thing about those achievements is that in a couple of days they will be over, and I can't wait for that. Next question. Ram, we need your opinion on today's dev diary, which is the dev diary that describes the new progression system, the new theory system. We actually, Bismarck and I, went very into detail about those things in the Q&A, but of course, as I said, the podcast couldn't be published. So I'm going to save those for the moment I do my dev server video and I post it up. I will talk a lot about that, don't worry. I don't want to say a lot of things right now if I'm going to repeat them in a later video. Don't worry, you will hear my opinions about them. Next question. Someone is commenting about the P-39 and how the Russians were able to get much better performances out of them than the Americans because they were abusing their engines. And he's making a good point, I think it should happen, which is the following. How about having markedly increased repair costs for the Soviet P-39 compared with the American one? It's a better performing plane, but the engine is destroyed quickly, so more money spent repairing it. Makes a lot of sense. Make a suggestion. And let's see if Gallin for once decides to make sense as well and do that. I agree totally. And actually, I think the Soviet planes, all of them, have too low repair costs overall. But yeah, I think it makes total sense. Then again, I'm not the one making the calls, and then again, I'm not Gallin. So well, it depends on them, not on me. Sometimes I think I should really be a game developer or something like that. Anyway, next question. Hey Ram, what do you think about the 47mm cannon shown on the Tempest in the new dev server, and also the rumors of 40mm cannons for the Hurricane? Are these weapons a good idea for these planes, and how should they be tiered? Well, those cannons are going to make those planes ground attack planes, and not really useful in historical battles at least. In arcade, probably they will turn into the terror of the skies. But arcade is a different matter. The thing is, it's complicated because some planes do really well in arcade and then in historical they are awful. And conversely, it's also true. Some planes are great in historical battles, but then in arcade they are lackluster. So it's kind of difficult to find a proper balance with them. Anyway, what I do think in historical battles, which is what I fly the most and what I post the most in this channel, I think they are going to be great to popping out tanks, but as they are going to need a lot of escorts. Probably not the Tempest. The Tempest is a really quick plane, and I think it's going to be highly survivable. But the Hurricane, poof, really that thing is going to be seriously challenged to survive in a decent environment of historical battles, because simply doesn't have the performance. It has the cannons, but not the performance. So yeah, well, they might be also really fun to troll people in historical battles as the Junker 87G is, but other than ground attack planes, I don't think they are going to have a very wide use. Next question. Hey Ram, I don't know about you, but I think the Germans lack at least a few heavy bombers in the tech tree. For instance, the Focke-Wulf 200 Condor and the Henkel 177 Engrave. What are your thoughts about this bomber, and do you think they would be a good addition to the German bomber line? Well, the Focke-Wulf 200, as you really say in your comment as well, in brackets, um, was not a heavy bomber. It was not even a bomber. It was a long, well, it was a transport plane. Let's face it. It was an airliner. It was the first great airliner of the history, four-engine airliner of history. Sorry, the first great airliner of history was a difficult, a difficult one to choose from. Probably the DC-3, but whatever. I'm going off topic. Um, in the war, the Focke-Wulf 200 was used as a long endurance maritime patrol plane with a secondary ability to bomb ships. But that's not what you expect from a bomber, is it? It was actually used to shadow convoys and to attack singled out merchants if possible, or unprotected convoys. Um, but again, that's a long range recon plane and not a bomber. Would I like to see it in War Thunder? I don't see any sense in having it. Well, I would love, of course. I mean, I would love to have a Stork in the game, and that thing would be useless. The Fizzler Stork. But I would love any plane of World War II to be in the game. Every of them. So, of course, I would love the Focke-Wulf 200 to be in the game. Of course I would, but really, what's the use? It could load 4 bombs at the most. And let's face it, to load 4 bombs, I'd rather go in a Junkers 88. not in a Condor, which is much bigger and is much slower and is much more of an easy target practice plane than what the Junker Serie 8 is. And the Junker Serie 8 is really easy to bring down. So, as for the Henkel 177, I would like to see it here, yes. But it's kind of a can of worms because that plane was never fully operational. I mean, whatever you've read, yeah, it was operational. Yeah, it saw service. Yeah, it was nominally in service in the Luftwaffe. But let's face it, that plane was not in conditions to be an operational bomber. In any other air force in the world, those planes would have been retired from service and probably rebuilt as a four-engine bomber, as the British did with the Manchester when they turned it into the Lancaster. But the Germans, well, one of the things they have is they are very persistent, they are very technologically gifted, and they are really, really, really hard-headed. When they really want something to happen, they bang their head against the wall until the wall falls down. In this case, the wall didn't fall down. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, the reliable, let's call it this way, the reliable Henkel 177 was the A5 version. The finally was reliable by then, or that's what most books say. say. Well, during Operation Sternbach, which was a kind of a failed try of the Germans to do retaliation attacks over London with their bombers. Uh, it was in very early 1944. Some of the bombers used were the Henkel 177. There's a story of Hermann Göring attending to, well, one of the first sorties of the Operation Sternbach. And what happened was that on the airfield he was witnessing the takeoffs. A total of 10 Henkel 177s took off. 3 of them had to immediately turn around and land again because they have developed engine trouble. Other 3 of them had to return, drop the bombs and return mid-flight and do emergency landings either in the base field or other satellite fields because their engine had caught on fire or failed. Out of the 4 that actually more or less arrived to the area, 2 were shot down and 2 dropped the bombs and returned back safely. That's the reliability of the reliable version of the Henkel 177. Now, people are going to comment about that when it's introduced, because if the plane is introduced with all its great characteristics, flight characteristics and speed characteristics, it was a plane with really good performance when it worked. People are gonna say, okay, yeah, the performance is historical, but where are the random engine fires? And they have no place in the game, because if you introduce that, you are going to open a huge can of worms, because a lot of other planes should have that kind of random trouble too. But then again, you can't make an historical Henkel 177 without the engine fires. So it's kind of a divided ground here. If we get it, we are getting a perfectly operational Henkel 177, which is not historical. And if we get a plane which has random, because it's random, engine fires, people are going to cry their lungs out and whine like madmen, and not without a reason, if I can add so. So, would I like to see the War Thunder? Yeah, well, as I said, I would like every plane of World War II in the game. Do I think it's an easy task putting it in? No, not at all. It's really a complicated thing to do. And I don't know exactly how they would do that. Because I don't think a Henkel 177 with the proper performance but with no mechanical trouble is really something that should happen, to be honest. But well, next question. Ram, do you like the Bugatti 100p? Well, for those of you who probably will be asking yourself, what the fuck a Bugatti 100p is. I'm going to stop the video for a second and let you see it. So if you are right now looking at the screen, looking at that and saying, what the hell is that? When did they build it? 2 years ago, because it looks freakingly modern. Well, actually, no. That's a plane designed in the late 30s. That was intended to be the fastest piston engine plane ever built back in the era. And, well, had a lot of innovative things, as you can see. Slightly negative arrow shaped wings, rotating propellers driven by two different engines, a V-tail configuration, has some seriously innovative stuff as well going on. Between them, well, automatic flaps and a lot of really unheard of features for a plane designed on that time. Now, what do I think about it? Um, if you go by the idea of if it looks good, it will fly good. Well, they think that thing must be great. But fact remains, it never flew. The engines were 450 horsepower only, and while it was really well streamlined, and it had counter-rotating props and all that, yes, I don't know the idea of the cooling system working like it should. I mean, this is the only plane I have ever seen that has radiator intakes in the tail and radiator exhausts on the wings. It's kind of uh, the opposite of what it should be. Um, I have seen people claiming this thing could go at 500 miles per hour. I highly doubt it. I mean, it's just 900 horsepower. Yes, yes, I know, really clean aerodynamics, counter-rotating propellers, but whatever. Even so, I mean, counter-rotating propellers don't really add up in power. They are really good to kill the torque of the engine and to stop the gyroscopical induced problems with that and the torque problems with a single propeller. But come on, I mean, 500 miles per hour. I think it looks fantastic. I think it looks really great. But it was never flown. And you will never know how good it was or bad it was until it's actually flown. They are restoring the one that was being built and never was because of World War II. And I think they are also trying to do a replica. We'll see when that flies, how it flies. Um, I hope it really does really well because it looks fantastic. But also, look at that tail; it's way too small. I don't know this directional stability on that thing. I mean, V tail in 1939 and such small vertical surfaces to prevent just instability. I don't know. Looks fantastic. And again, if they go by the saying that if it looks great, it will fly great, this thing will fly like a wonder. But I don't know. I don't know. What do I think about it? That it was a real series of very good ideas and some ideas that I'm still frowning upon, like the radiator stuff. Um, I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's great, but the claimed performance this thing would have, I don't believe it. Honestly, I don't. Um, Beautiful plane, however, and really modern looking. It's surprising that such a plane that looks, as I said, built 2 years ago, was actually built in the 30s. But yeah, next question. Hey Ram, my question would be, what is your single favorite unit in WarGame Airland Battle right now? Huh, Nighthawk. Yeah. It's not invulnerable by any means. It's really vulnerable if you don't know how to use it. But if you know how to use it, that thing rocks so hard. As well, other than that, probably the Mi-24 um, chopper, attack chopper, the Soviet one. Um, Simply said, it has armor. It has 10 health points. Um, it has a lot of anti-tank missiles and a lot of rockets, and a 30 mm cannon to boot. The thing is brutal. And even against some anti-aircraft cover, if you are smart enough, you can take the AA cover in a way you can't in any other chopper. Simply because it can stand insane amount of damage because of that armor and those 10 health points. So yeah, those two probably will be my favorite. Next question. Ron, what do you think about Shevchenko and Maddox's new Kickstarter flight sim, DCS World War II Europe 1944? Do you think it would be good and would you play it? No, no. I have spoken again a lot of times about Oleg Maddox, how angry I am at him for what he did with IL-2. I'm not going to purchase any title which has either his name or his former studio's name on it. Simply because they cheated on me with the IL-2 games, and I'm not ever going to trust them again to give them even a single cent of my money. So no, no, not looking forward to them, and I simply don't care about them. Next question. Hey Ram, I just heard about 1.37 adding the Focus-1 8. I thought that was your beloved plane. What are your thoughts on this? Well, my beloved plane is anything that has a Focus-1 level on it, not just the A8. It just happened that in the Focus-1 A8 was the only Focus-1 that was present in SSI when I started flying SSI. And SSI for me was a school, was where I learned how to be a virtual pilot in an online combat simulator. The plane is going to be really, really not liked by a lot of people, and that's because it was 10% heavier than the Focus-1 A5. Part of it was because of the new equipment, had more heavy cannons on the outward part of the wings. It had heavier machine guns on the cooling. It had ammo for both, which was also weighted. A lot of people go around saying that the Focus-1 A8 has more armor than the A5. Well, it had a couple of plates. We had 2 more millimeters of thickness. So for all intents and purposes, no, it was not more armored. Well, yes, it was, but for practical purposes, no. Um, a lot of people are not going to like it, and that's because the Focus-1 A5 is such a great plane and allows for a lot of things that you won't be allowed to do in a Focus-1 A8. The Focus-1 A5 is nimble enough to actually let himself go into some high-speed turn fighting now and then, because then it has acceleration and climb rate to get away. The Focus-1 A8 had more power than the A5 and had similar acceleration and climb rate because of the more powerful engine. The problem is that it's heavier and has the same wing area and it's going to bleed a lot more speed in anything you do in a turn. It's also going to be better in Bumasun as well, by the way, of course. It's going to be heavier. But if you stray away from Bumansum in a Focus-1 A8, you're as good as dead. And the way I see people flying the Focus-1 A5, they are going to hate the A8. Really, they are. Because it's heavier. Same wing area means higher wing loading, much worse turning, a lot more bleed of speed and energy in high speed turns. Um, Unforgivable. It's going to be a great fighter, but a very unforgivable one. Also, it's going to be in the new tier 4, which encompasses anything. I mean, it has P51Ds, it has Spitfire LF9s, which is actually the place it should be because it was, I mean, the Focus One in EA8 with the extra power that placed it in a with a more powerful engine than the Focus One in EA5 was a mid 1944 plane, but it was not the best fighter for that era. It was a great fighter, but others were better. I mean, the Thunderbolt was better than the AA8, in my opinion. The P51D was better than the AA8, in my opinion. Everything changed when the Dora 9 came into line. Um, it's going to be a fantastic fighter, but a very, very challenging one. And one that I'm going to love flying, because this thing is way, way, way far from being the favorite. It's going to be far from the favorite plane of everyone, and as such, it's one plane I'm going to like a lot because I like planes that are unpopular and undeservedly unpopular. I like the P51D when everyone says it sucks. It doesn't. It's simply hard to fly. I love the Henkel 112, which is a piece of crap, admittedly so, but still I like flying it. I like underdogs. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with the A8 while everyone else is trying a Dorado 9, probably. So yeah, those are my thoughts on it. Next question. Now that you've started playing WarGame Air and Battle for a bit, have you developed a favorite nation, unit type, or strategy? If so, what? Also, are you thinking of continuing on with Red Dragon when it releases? Well, as for the last question, there's and absolutely no doubt I'm going to get Red Dragon. And also, I'm going to keep on playing Wargame, and I'm going to keep on posting videos about Wargame. As you can see in the video app, I'm retaking the War Thunder videos. Now that 1.37 is very close, and now that finally the stupid challenge thing for the closed beta is going to be over. I'm going to again put probably a daily video of War Thunder, but in the middle is going to be definitely there's going to be a lot of Wargame Airland Battle as well. And when Red Dragon is released, oh wow, I'll be the first one to pick it, or if not the first, one of the first. It looks fantastic, and if it's half as good as the one I'm playing right now, it's going to be epic. So yeah, I'm going to get it. As for favorite nation unit, well, I have found myself using choppers a lot, and probably my favorite units are those choppers because they allow for a lot of flexibility in the application of immediate, deadly, and destructive power in one part of the battlefield to then appear in a completely different part of the battlefield. They are great for flanking maneuvers. They are great. They are air cavalry, to be honest, but they are kind of a glass cannon. Exception made for the hints, probably. The Soviet flying tanks, because they are flying tanks, to be honest. Those things stand so much damage. It's insane. Um, I'm having a lot of fun with them, and I think they really suit my strategy really well. I'm kind of someone who likes fast flanking attacks, and that's really something you can do only with very fast units, of course. And probably because I still don't have enough skill with Wargame, I struggle a little bit in deploying a proper flank attack and to hit with my forward, my lines into the enemy at the same time that my flank is exactly at the point needed for the flank. When I devise a strategy of flanking, I send my units to flank, but then somehow I always manage to botch up and to be either too late with flanking troops or too soon. With the helicopters, that's never a problem because they are instantly there. They move so quickly and they move so fast that you have instant flanking opportunities. Um, they are very flexible, and probably is what I like the most. How flexible they are. And also they are something that goes above the ground. I love everything that flies. And also I think that I understand very well how to use an helicopter. Probably because I have flown Black Shark, DCS Black Shark, the Camo 50 simulator. And of course, I mean, that's not a simulator, that's a mega simulator. If you think something can be realistic, go 5 steps ahead, and that's what DCS simulators bring to table. To start up in the helicopter in DCS Black Shark, you need to actually start the sequence from the ground. Well, you can actually get rid of that, but if you want to fly totally realistic, you have to switch on the helicopter and start off the computers, start off the navigation system, start off everything. And that takes a checklist of things you have to do that will take you to the skies in maybe 10 minutes. So it's 10 minutes of proceedings. Uh, they went ape with realism, and I loved it. I had so much fun learning how to switch on the helicopter. I mean, I might have taken 6 hours only to learn how to switch on the damn helicopter. I was having insane fun before actually taking off. So that was insane. And I had a lot of fun with it. And of course, it was not my first helicopter simulation. I have flown more in the past. But it was a serious simulation. A really, really serious one. So you really had to learn how to fly the chopper, and how to use terrorite masking, how to hide yourself from anti-aircraft assets, how to prioritize targets. I think I have a very developed idea on how to use a helicopter well. And you can see that in WarGame Ramado. At least I think I see it because they are very effective in my hands. Also, I find myself relying on them a little bit too much. There are moments if the enemy messes up anti-aircraft cover and I can't use my chopper to maneuver, I'm in trouble because I lack my flanking. I like to have it. I like the flexibility it offers. And if I'm denied that, I lose a lot. I lose a lot because I'm relying in them maybe a little bit too much, to be honest. Not because they are exceptionally powerful in the sense of unbalanced. I think they are perfectly balanced, but I think I use them very well. Now, of course, there's no way to use them very well when the whole area is covered in anti-aircraft cover. So yeah, well. So probably my favorite units would be helicopters, and in particular the Apache. The Apache is the best one of them. If anything, it wastes missiles a little bit. But the fact that you simply can shoot a missile and move the heck out of the way because the missile is going to hit, it's insanely good. And a close second would be the Hind. And a third second would be the Havoc. Ironically, I don't like the key and the K50 Hokum in this game too much. I don't think the weapon sets they gave it are worth the points it costs. But yeah, I think my favorite units are choppers. As for favorite nation, I don't really have one. I don't really have one because I play with a lot of decks. I play with Western German decks, Eastern German decks, American decks, Czech decks, USSR decks, of course, even Polish decks, which are insanely fun because they are spam a lot. You can spam infantry like mad and until no tomorrow. They are crap quality wise, but so many units. Well, actually, they are not crap. The Commandos are really, really, really great infantry. But well, the I would say there are nations that I don't like, and those nations are the ones that don't have anti-air flexibility. I don't like Canada because other than the ADATs, it doesn't have any other anti-aircraft weapon that is worth mentioning. I don't like Norway just because that's fact. In fact, it has Hawks, and that's mostly it. And I don't like Denmark because of that as well, simply lacking in anti-aircraft cover. As for the rest, I like them all. Favorite? I find myself having a lot of fun with the Western Germans. And of course the Americans because it has the Nighthawks and all those amazing choppers, and of course the USSR. I don't know. I don't have a favorite. I have nations that don't really tick for me because they simply lack the anti-aircraft assets. And really, you need anti-aircraft assets in this game to do well. And well, next and last question. Uh, in 1.37, the B-17 is getting its 1,000 pound bombs reduced to 6 instead of 8. My question is, could a World War II era US B-17 fit 8 1,000 pounder bombs in its bay? And what was the typical bomb layout of a B-17? Um, Internally in the bomb bay, yeah, the most it could carry was 6 1,000 kilogram bombs. Sorry, 1,000 pounder bombs. Usual bomb loadout depended on the range. Actually, depended on how much the player had to take that bomb load to. Usually, I think it was either 8 500 pound bombs or 6 1,000 pound bombs. The bomb bay of the B-17 wasn't exceptionally big. I mean, if you see the Lancaster bomb bay and compare it with a B-17, it's like, really? The Lancaster is a bomber, the B-17 is not. It was not big. It was not a big bomb bay. I think it's a good thing to have. I mean, they are putting the most common bomb loads. Now, if they only did that to every other plane in the game, that would be good. The problem is that other planes don't have that thing, and they have max bomb loadouts instead of the common bomb loadouts. And I'm looking at you, year 2, for instance. So the problem is the discrimination between some planes and others, because some get some very, very, very strange and rare configurations and were very rarely seen, and others get only their normal configuration. So let's set a standard and let's put every plane in the game to follow that standard. What you can't do is a two standard thing in the game. I mean, fix a standard for everyone. So if the B-17 has only the normal bomb loadout it could carry, every other bomber in the game should carry the normal bomb load it could carry and nothing else. We'll see that if that happens and they start changing other planes to suit that as well, or not. If not, well, double standards. There's no way around that. Double standards. So yep, that's going to be it for this week's video. These are the questions for this week. As always, well, don't forget to comment in the comment section below and to make your questions. And also don't forget to upvote those questions you want to see answered the most. As always, well, I hope you had fun with this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And, well, thank you very much for watching and see you later. Every city, there's a place where life's a little easy. Stress from the world outside. Every longer will be alright.